let's shift our way now into the interior and talk about the defensive tackle position. Last year in 2024, getting my years mixed up here, the Browns went into the season on the initial 53-man roster with Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst, Quentin Jefferson, and Michael Hall on the roster, though Michael Hall was on the commissioner's exempt list, if you remember, to start the season, so did not count against that initial 53 to begin with. So here we're just going to start off with the veteran who was here last year and is still on the roster, and that would be Shelby Harris, 6'2", 288 pounds. He is 33 years old. This will be his 11th NFL season. He's definitely a seasoned veteran. It's the final year on his deal with the Browns. He's a $2.8 million cap hit, and the Browns do not stand to gain anything by cutting him. So I would imagine, unless he just flat gets beat out in camp and there's no room on the roster for him, Shelby Harris will be here. And I do think he'll be an integral part of the defensive interior this season. He had a strong 2024 season last year for the Browns. He worked in that rotational depth role behind Tomlinson and these other guys, Hurst and Jefferson, these guys. And he had 37 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. He's, like I mentioned, a great veteran guy to have on the line, especially early on this season, because we have young guys who need to continue to develop at the NFL level, and they're not ready for big roles right out the gate this season. That would be Mike Hall and Mason Graham. So they need to develop and work. And, because Mike Hall just missed so much time last year, he didn't really get a full season logged as a rookie. Mason Graham, again, just a rookie, and defensive tackle is one of the more difficult positions to acclimate from college to the NFL. So Shelby Harris, great veteran to have on the roster. The next guy this might be the most under-the-radar signing the Browns made this entire offseason. And it's a guy that I'm actually very excited to see how he contributes, especially early on in the season, on the defensive line next to Myles Garrett and with some of these other pass rushers we have off the edge. And it's Malik Collins, a new veteran face to the defensive front, 6'2", 311 pounds. He's 30 years old. This will be his 10th NFL season. He signed a 2-year, $20 million contract with the Browns with $13 million guaranteed, just a $4.2 million cap hit here in 2025. So just based on his experience and the contract the Browns gave him, I expect Malik Collins to lead the pack for the defensive interior here in 2025, especially, like I said, early in the season. Last year with the 49ers in San Francisco, Malik Collins had 33 tackles, 20 solo tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. He has started pretty much every single game he's ever played his entire career. He's logged over 5,700 snaps ever since he entered the league back in 2016. The Dallas Cowboys took Collins in the 3rd round of the 2016 draft, and he has had a very solid NFL career. This is a great addition by the Browns, and I think that they did what they could to beef up. They've been trying for years to beef up and solidify the defensive interior position. They've drafted a bunch of guys who haven't worked out. They've signed a bunch of guys who haven't worked out. I think that this year they went head on. With the 5th overall pick, they grabbed Mason Graham. They said, we're going to fix this thing for the long term. And in free agency, they signed Malik Collins and said, we are going to solidify this thing for the short term. And I think it was and could prove to be the most underrated signing by the Browns this offseason. All right, next guy up, as mentioned before, Michael Hall Jr., 6'3", 300 pounds. He is just 21 years old, so this is a very young fella. It's his 2nd season in the NFL. He was the Browns' first pick, if you remember, in the 2024 draft. They took him in the 2nd round, the 54th pick in the draft out of Ohio State. Now, we all remember the story, unfortunately, from last year, and it's worth rehashing just a little bit here. In August last year, during the preseason, he was arrested for a domestic dispute, and of which that Hall pleaded no contest to a reduced charge of disorderly conduct during his hearing in September. He was given a 30-day suspended jail sentence, a $250 fine, and 2 years monitored time. Don't need to go into any more details because I just wanted to hit it real quick since I mentioned he was on the commissioner exempt list. If you don't remember, or maybe you're new to the fan base and you're like, well, why was he on the exempt list? He had a domestic dispute, blah, 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 all in all, not a great situation. You can go look up the details for yourself if you want more, but ultimately, like his girlfriend, fiance, who was The other person in the dispute, she did retract some of her accusations from that night, but either way, it was just kind of a mess. It landed him on the exempt list, like I said, and he missed the first 5 games of the season. Now, Hall did come back in Week 6 against the Philadelphia Eagles. He played 4 games when he came back. Then he missed 4 games. After that, with a knee injury, he came back in Week 14, and then he played the final 4 games of the season before he was carted off during the season finale in Baltimore with a knee injury. So he had surgery this offseason to repair his knee. Really, it was about as bad of a rookie season as you could have, considering where the Browns drafted him, second round pick, first pick they had in that draft last year, and really what they expected him to do for the team and for the defense in 2024. So not a great rookie season at all for Michael Hall. Hopefully just a whole bunch of crap and garbage that he can put behind him and move on and build from there. He logged just 232 snaps last season, only 14 tackles, 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss. This dude is going to need a strong 2025 season to redeem himself from last year and to shake off any notion that he was a wasted second-round pick. AB has definitely had trouble drafting defensive tackles over the last 5 drafts that he's been here. Now, he just took Mason Graham here in his 6th draft, hoping that one hits, hoping Michael Hall's a hit, because none of the guys before him have really been a hit at all. So, still got high hopes for Michael Hall, he's just got to put it together this year for sure. Now let's talk about Mason Graham, the 5th overall pick from this year's draft. 6'3", 296 pounds, 21 years old. The Browns traded back from number 2 with the Jaguars to number 5 to take Mason Graham. I think it's worth remembering in that trade, the Jaguars ended up getting Travis Hunter and Bashal Tutin in the 4th round or something like that. And then they got a safety or something later. I forget what their haul ultimately was, but basically for Travis Hunter, the Browns ended up with Mason Graham, Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, and the 1st round pick from the Jaguars next year in 2026. So the Browns get Mason Graham, and they will now pair up a former Buckeye in Michael Hall right next to a former Wolverine in Mason Graham, and hopefully they will solidify that defensive interior. It has worked out so well in the past that Andrew Berry has now used the 1st pick of the last 2 drafts at the position. If you kind of hear a theme here I'm harping on, Andrew Berry is not putting together very strong defensive interior so far. He has been trying, just has not been succeeding. So Mason Graham hopefully is going to be part of the major part of the answer to this. He totaled 108 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, and 9 sacks over 39 career games at Michigan. Last season, he had 45 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 3.5 sacks. He was the pretty much consensus top-rated defensive tackle in this entire draft class. Accolades from last year: first team Associated Press All-American, first team All-Big Ten, finalist for the Ben Nerick Award, nation's top defender, and he was a finalist for the Outland Trophy, which is the nation's top offensive lineman or defensive lineman. So, Mason Graham comes in here with all the accolades, all the production, and all the potential to be the Browns' long-term, very strong answer at the defensive tackle position. So that's what we're hoping for with Mason Graham. A couple other names here on the defensive interior to mention. Jawan Briggs from last year, 7th round pick in 2024, and then Ralph Hawley, who is the Grey Cup champion that they signed this offseason from the CFL. We should, as long as everything works out okay, be talking to Ralph Hawley on Saturday on our live stream during the Browns Backers Bowling with Legends event. So make sure you guys tune into that live stream or catch the replay later. It'll be on demand on all the video platforms. The podcast will be out on Sunday, all that kind of stuff. So tune in, hear what Ralph Hawley, hopefully we get to sit down with him, we should, has to say about the Browns and his journey through the CFL and everything to get here. But it's going to be a lot of fun.